Hello and welcome to this video series on Advanced Qualtrics Experimental Design. Qualtrics is an online survey platform that's available to all AU users. This advanced video series will cover the first procedures in creating an informed consent question, how to then go ahead and use 4 tools in Qualtrics that are particularly useful for creating experiments such as survey flow, randomization, embedded data, and piped text. This course assumes that you have the basic knowledge of the Qualtrics platform. If you have not gone through the Introduction to Qualtrics video series, I would recommend doing that first. This is video 1 of a 2-part video series. In video 1, we're going to go ahead and create a template of our survey, and then we're going to add the different features to it. This includes creating questions for informed consent and adding a skip logic. So this video series does assume that the participants are familiar with the Institutional Review Board policies and standards. Before publishing and distributing any survey you create for academic or personal projects, please ensure that the survey meets those standards and requirements set forth by the IRB. More information about those standards and requirements can be found at the IRB's website at http://www.american.edu/IRB/. What we're going to do right now is we're going to create a new survey, and we're going to go ahead and enter all of these questions into it first. This way we have a template to work off of. We're going to get the informed consent done with this video, and then all the other different randomization and tools we're going to cover in the next video. So first we're going to create a new project. It's going to be a survey. And I'm going to call this Advanced Qualtrics First, I'm going to go ahead and rename this block. I'm going to call this Informed Consent. And I'm going to create 2 questions. Now, since I don't have the language already for the informed consent document, I'm going to go ahead and just create a placeholder for now. So I'm changing this to a graphic or text. So once we get that and have it approved, we can just go ahead and copy and paste that in there. And let me go ahead and make this just 2 options. And we'll add in skip logic after. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to create a couple of new blocks that we'll be needing for today. In this first block, we're going to add in some demographic questions. Now, something I do want to point out, so depending on your study, if you ask demographics before any of the independent variables, manipulations, or outcome variables, these could also impact the sequences of this too. It could have an effect, such as the literature and the studies based on stereotype threat. So depending on the type of study that you're doing, you might want to consider the sequencing, whether to put the demographics at the front part of the study or at the end. It really depends on the design, the research questions, hypotheses, and so forth. If you're doing anything by different demographics, you might want to collect that earlier. That way, in case someone drops out towards the end, you still have all that information. Otherwise, if they drop out midway through or towards the end of it, then you don't have that information. So it's going to be a judgment call. I'm going to go ahead and create a couple of new questions here and ask about which of these best describes you. Prefer to self-describe. Prefer not to answer. Because we want to prefer to self-describe, I'm going to go ahead and allow a text entry in there too. Let me go ahead and get rid of some of these options because we're going to have 5. Okay. What we can also do is we can also rename this. So when we download this out of Qualtrics and into like an SPSS or into a Excel sheet, we can go ahead and we have that already labeled as a variable. So I'm going to make these all one word. I'm not going to have anything there because that's just going to be just a placeholder for that, so everyone's going to get the same information there. Okay, so let's see. So we've added those 2 questions, and we also need to add questions 4 and 5. So I'm going to add in 4 and 5 into this. I'm going to add a display logic to it. So I'm going to add 2 new questions. This is going to be a matrix table. And we're actually going to be randomizing the particular statements below this one. And I'm just going to use the paste as plain text. That way all the formatting is going to be the same. This has a 5-point Likert scale, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. And that's already kind of filled all that in for us, which is great. So our first one is okay. And because we have strong leader as a first position, we want to actually have this be the higher score rather than by default it's going to be a 1. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to recode values, and I'm just going to change these around. So it's going to become a 5, it's going to be a 4. Oops. So I actually need to get rid of this one and this one because it automatically defaulted to a 7-point scale. Let me fix that so it looks a little bit cleaner. And now we'll go back into there. 3, it's going to be a 2 and a 1. That looks good. So what else we're going to do is we're going to randomize. So these are going to be in a random order. We're also going to go ahead and add in the following question. Okay. And then this is actually going to be just a text entry. And I'm going to give them a couple of lines. Great. So now what we're going to do is after this question, we're going to go ahead and create a new block. So we already have a block here. And I'm going to call this experiment 1. I'm going to go ahead and create a new question. It's going to be a multiple choice. And what we're going to do is we're going to randomly have participants either see the $50 or the $500 and to see which organization they would then provide to. So we're going to track what option they're shown and then which organization individuals decide to go with. So we have the Sierra Club, we have Greenpeace, Environmental Defense Fund, the Natural Resources Defense Council. Okay, great. So go ahead and we're going to create a placeholder for the next experiment that we're going to go into later. So I'm going to call this experiment 2. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to, in questions 7 and 8, we're actually going to create a duplicate of this block. So I'm going to call this treatment. Now note block here, and this is actually going to be experiment 2 control. Or sorry, treatment is going to actually be the experiment itself condition. Okay. So what I want to do is we're going to provide everyone the same information. So it's me descriptive text. Okay. And in the experiment, we're actually going to then, we're going to do a display the Greenpeace logo. In the next video, we'll walk through of how to actually insert that in there. Now I'm going to add another block. So we're going to have 7 and 8, and then we're actually going to have everyone then answer the block 9 question. And the block 9 question is, how well does the mission statement reflect your own understanding of Greenpeace? And it's going to be a 5-point Likert scaling. So it's going to be, let's call this RDV for now. And we'll just go ahead and use that within it, but because I want higher scores to mean it's more positive, I'm going to go ahead and just recode this. Okay. Great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the next 2 questions in its own block, which is going to be, we're going to put instructions with a video. We're going to go ahead and put in a timing, and then we have a final block. So I'm going to add these two last blocks. This is going to be, I'll put video, and then I'm going to go ahead and put, I'll put DV2 for now. So I'm going to create one question here. And I'm going to go ahead and put it as just a descriptive text for now. And then we're going to actually add in a timing one in the next video here. So our final question is going to be multiple choice. Because we want the timing for how long they spend on this, we're going to have it be this next question be an entirely separate one for the timing, because we don't want to have that be accounted for within it. So a great deal, a lot. Actually, that worked out perfectly. And then finally, let's say that we wanted to provide a debriefing and explain what the study was about. We can go ahead and put this as a placeholder, debriefing statement. That's what this study was about, maybe if they have any questions, who to contact, and so forth. Great. So we have this all much pretty set up, and then in the next video, we're going to go ahead and talk about the different features. But first, we're going to go ahead and set up this informed consent. So what I do now is I'm going to make this question a required. That way, they have to answer this before they can move on, because we really need to know if they agree to participate or not. If they don't answer this and they skip ahead, how would we account for that? So what I do is, it's now a required question, and I'm going to add skip logic now. So just go into this gear option, selecting skip logic, and now what I'm going to say is condition, if no is selected, skip to the end of the survey. If we go into preview mode, we can test it. So if they click that, there we go. And if they agree to participate, perfect. That all looks great. So let me go ahead and close out of this. And I'm going to end this first video here, and we're going to pick back up and add in all the different options. Thank you, and see you in the next video.